Years before I was a researcher at Ohio State getting my doctorate in the mind-body connection, there was a study done there involving food, cholesterol, and rabbits. And for the most part, everything went as expected. The rabbits who were given the bad food with high cholesterol ended up with higher cholesterol. The rabbits who were given the healthier food of low cholesterol had lower cholesterol. Except for one particular subset of rabbits who were given the bad diet, who ended up with fewer cholesterol deposits. Now that's not what you want as a researcher because it makes things messy. And they had some difficulty figuring out what was going on because it looked like everything was the same. Until they found out that the research associate in charge of feeding that particular subset of rabbits was taking them out and loving on them when they fed them. They took them out and they would pet them and hold them and talk to them. And that was the only difference. They replicated the study and the same thing happened. Now, of course, I don't know, but I bet those researchers sat around the table and said, "Oh man, this is the coolest thing ever. Loving on the rabbits made that difference." But that's not what they called it in the study. In the study, it was written up as tactile kinesthetic stimulation. I know, right? It's kind of funny. But it would be way funnier except for the fact that there is still such stigma and embarrassment around talking about some of the things that we know make the biggest difference in our lives, things like kindness and love. And if we think there's embarrassment and weirdness talking about love in professional spaces, like the work setting and research, it's even weirder and a bigger discomfort if we try to address self-love. I am on a mission to help uplift the consciousness of the planet, and to do that by expanding the self-love movement in a really big way. So I am here today with not only permission, but a loving, respectful assignment to you to begin loving yourself in earnest, intentionally, more than you ever have before. Putting yourself back in your circle of kindness, and to begin to practice self-love processes. No more thinking that self-love is this checklist of self-care things that you just check off. Self-love is simply about honoring the sacredness of your soul. It's about honoring the goodness and the beauty that's within you, no matter how old you are and no matter how masculine or feminine you feel. In all the years in the self-care area, what I have learned is that there is nothing more powerful than self-love to help you begin to live the life that you are being called to live. Because it's hard to step into the highest version of you, because it takes persistent action and effort, and it's scary. And while I know that self-love is the one thing that will help you do that, it is also the thing that we haven't tried. Really think about it with the real things that you care about. Your weight and your health and your money and your relationships and work. We've tried so many things, but we haven't gone like this. I know. Maybe deciding to honor that I am this beautiful being worthy of having a really good life. Maybe I'll start talking to myself with kind words and loving actions, and maybe I'll even decide to honor my own inner guidance above everything. We haven't done that. Now, there's no fault, and it makes sense that we haven't done it because we haven't had role models. Most of us have not had role models of healthy self-love. Babies and little kids and animals, they're an awesome role model of self-love, but do you notice how we kind of relegate them off like they're some anomaly, like they'll grow out of it? Most of us weren't raised by parents or caregivers who modeled healthy self-love, who did care about the beauty within their own soul, that did go at a pace that made them feel good, that listened to their own inner guidance, that lived the life that they loved. So we didn't have the role models, but in addition, have you all heard the story lately? We are relating and even at some points equating self-love to things like narcissism and selfishness. Have you heard that? I know. And I'm here to say what I know, I believe, that your inner gut already knows, which is there is nothing further from the truth. You guys, narcissism and selfishness and self-indulgence and self-importance and self-aggrandizing, all of those close our hearts. They make us separate from other people. And most of the time they stem from pain. And while I am not condoning abusive behaviors, it really is true what they so often say, which is hurt people hurt people. Self-love, on the other side, it's the same as all love. You guys, it opens our hearts. It makes us amazing and beautiful. It connects us. It makes us be able to see the greatness within us. And we even know that it makes us literally more patient, more compassionate, and more tolerant to the other people. Now, you know that. We know this. Think about how you are when you're all filled up. Maybe you had a good sleep. Maybe you're in love. Maybe you're excited. Maybe you did something to make you proud of yourself. Think about how you are with others that you love when you're filled up. Flight attendants have known this for a really long time, right? Because if there's a problem, and if we need to be our best, we're supposed to put the mask on us first. I know, right? So I want to give you the 4 postulates or pillars of self-love to help your brain be able to wrap around it if you decide to take on your assignment. Pillar number 1 of self-love is innate worthiness. You are innately worthy of love and belonging and creating a life that you love. No matter what you learned or you've believed or the thought that you've practiced in your head, you guys, there is no fall from grace. You are literally part of the consciousness of the universe. Look, I know we're having human lives, and I know that things are messy on the planet. I do know that. But I also know that along with being human, you are an infinite spiritual being of love and light. There is nothing you can do that makes you not worthy of love. Now, well, there's that part in your gut, in the center, your inner guidance that might have this like, oh, I can feel the truth of that. It helps me breathe a little bit. There's a very good chance that your habit of mind is going to come in and go, well, that's cool, Darcy, but I don't believe that. I believe it for other people, but not for me. And the cool thing is, neuroscience tells us now that a belief, it's just a thought that we have been thinking over and over and over. It's not like magic. And you are the thinker of your thoughts. You literally can create new thoughts by just deciding to think a new one. And here's the new one that I would like you to take on for today. Like everyone, I am innately worthy. Like everyone, I am innately worthy. Which brings us to pillar number 2. Self-love is just a choice. I think sometimes we're waiting around till everybody else does it. We're waiting until it doesn't feel awkward or uncomfortable. We're waiting until South Park or SNL aren't going to make a skit about it, making fun of us doing affirmations, yes, right? or looking at us in the mirror. But I want you to think about, if we haven't been trained and taught self-love, it's like learning a new thing. If you ever tried to learn a new language, or almost all of us, you can remember back when you were getting ready to learn how to drive. Now, can you imagine going like this? Well, I'm going to wait to learn until I already know how to drive the car. Or I'm going to wait to practice the new language until I feel comfortable speaking the language. It doesn't make sense. I want you to just think of self-love that same thing. It's simply a choice to start actually practicing self-love practices. And in all seriousness, here is the beautiful thing that happens. If you take on the challenge, because it is a challenge, to begin to intentionally and awkwardly begin to practice self-love actions, what happens is you will start to hatch and grow an actual feeling inside you that goes, wow, I am worthy. I'm worthy of love and belonging and a good life. I don't feel like that every day, but I have felt it often enough that it feels as delicious when you feel it for yourself as it does when you see your dogs and your cats and your friends and the people that you adore the most. And that brings up pillar or postulate number 4 of self-love. Oh, number 3 of self-love. And that is, self-love is just a practice. It's a practice. It's not a perfect. You're never going to get it done, which is a real drag for people like me, and I bet several of you can relate, because I like to get things done. My significant other teases me because I like closure. I like to check it all off. But the practice of self-love is just a practice. From now on, think about things that you know that you do, and sometimes wish you do, but maybe don't all the time, like meditating or praying or walking or eating healthy foods or having wonderful time with your significant people. It's things that we do every day, little bits, day to day to day, that makes the big difference. And what I really want you to hear, because this is most important in the work that I've seen with my audiences and students and classes and clients, in correlation to how much and how often you practice self-love, your life works. The things that you have actually wanted to change and be different and you have tried for years, really, those things again, your health, your body, your relationships, your money, you will start to see beautiful and sometimes bizarre transformations in those things. Divine synchronicities will happen, but it's not just magic. You will grow the inspiration and the strength and the courage to do what needs to be done. The more you practice self-love, the more your life works. Which brings us to pillar number 4, which is called as to others, to yourself. As to others, to yourself. If there's a part of you that goes, I've heard this enough, and I know that when I'm feeling good and I'm filled up and I feel in love with my life, everything works and I'm better out in the world to people. I mean, we know that. So if there's a part of you that goes, I know, but I don't really know what that looks like. I don't really know how to hold that. As to others, to yourself. I want you to just right now think of the words and the attitudes and the behaviors that you use with people in your life, either that is really easy for you to adore, like your family and your closest peeps, or the people that you really respect and hold in high esteem. And I just want you to think of the sorts of ways you are to them. And every day, do 1 or 2 small actions like that. When they come down, passing you in the hall, I bet you just smile at them. Maybe you grab their shoulder or hold their hand, or just say, I think you're awesome. Thanks for being in my life. Could you do a few of those things for yourself? And now I want to give you 2 specific self-love practices. And I'm going to ask you to use them every day. And they're both very simple and very powerful. The first one is every single time when you see a mirror, instead of doing that thing we sometimes do, that's out of place and that's not right and that's too flabby and this is too big and that's too gray, I want you to on purpose find your eyeballs, look at yourself, and then very coolly, not making some big deal about this, very coolly, you're going to go like this. Hey, I hope something good happens to you today. You're looking in your eyeballs. I hope something good happens to you today. Your inner critic is not going to be able to argue with that. Practice number 2. It's called hands to heart and rock. I would love if you would commit internally to doing this right before you get out of bed. It's right when you sit up in bed, before you stand up for your day, and right before you lay down in bed to go to sleep. Hands to heart. See if you can feel that. As if you are present with you. And then subtly, nobody even has to know you're doing it. Don't make it real big, that'd be weird. And very little, you're just gonna rock. Only about 5 to 10 seconds, but with the intention to offer yourself and your beautiful body kindness, compassion, or love. That's it. I know that self-love is the one thing that is powerful enough to help you create the life that you are being called to live. And I want you to imagine if people everywhere, all over the planet, were living the highest version of themselves. We literally could help shift things. Please join me in expanding this awesome movement of self-love. Thank you.